I'm going to start somewhere. It may shock you, but you're from Delaware.
Delaware.
Now,
Wilmington.
I was curious. Yeah. I thought Delaware was like, how many actors come from Delaware? Judge Reinhold, who we've had on the thing. Ryan Phillippe.
Yeah.
Let's see. Aubrey.
Plaza, yeah.
Pretty big.
Yeah.
Delaware's a little bit of a weird filmmaker hub.
Yeah, very small too. Like I went to school with Aubrey's little sister. Was pretty close to her in like elementary and middle school. And then Ryan Phillippe, my mom is a seamstress, and she also used to go to his family's home, like his parents' home, and fix their curtains and do alterations for them.
Wow.
So it's very small. Like we all kind of find our way to know each other, even if it's generationally different. Like my dad is born and raised there, and so people that he went to school with, I knew their kids, like that sort of thing. But yeah, it surprisingly births a couple of artists have come out of there.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
But you were originally in dance. Dance was kind of your first foray into the art world, if you will.
Yeah.
What made you transition? What was the turning point for you?
So when I was dancing, I stopped dancing when I was 14, which is like to this day my biggest regret in life. I feel like for me, I just got really, when you're a teenager and you're like, oh, I would much rather be with my friends and do things like that. And dance was like sort of a big part of my schedule, especially during recital years. And I think I thought I was too cool for it at some point. And it's such a regret of mine. But eventually I got into modeling a little bit. I started modeling in New Jersey and a little bit in New York and Pennsylvania area. And sort of outgrew that a little bit. And then my mom had dabbled in acting when she was younger. She also has friends in the acting world that live in New York. And I think one of them was just sort of gave her the idea of getting into acting. And actually, Ryan Phillippe's sister, Lindsay, is really good friends with my mom. And she also is in the commercial world. So she kind of put that idea into my mom's head. And my mom was open to exploring it and, seeing if that would be something that I was interested in. So she essentially had me learn a monologue. I found like a monologue on Google and memorized it, and it was a really, really sad monologue. It was about a kid in high school whose friend had just died. And I performed it on this like little camera recorder that we had. It wasn't anything fancy whatsoever, but I just memorized it, learned it, recorded myself, and while I was performing it, I found I was bawling my eyes out. I was so into it, and it ended up afterwards feeling like this huge emotional release for me. And I think growing up, I was always somebody who I didn't really like to talk about my feelings. I much rather physically get it out, and that was what dance was for me. I would go to dance in a really bad mood and come out the happiest kid ever, and it just was this like constant emotional catharsis for me. And
you sweated it out.
Yeah, I just got it out of me, and that was acting. And I think finding that was just this like huge light bulb in my head of, whoa, I think I really love doing this, and I had never done anything like it before. My mom ended up taking the tape and secretly sending it to managers in Los Angeles, and I ended up actually getting a call back from one of them.
Wow.
Who offered to meet with me the following week. I had never been out of Delaware at this point besides the tri-state area, nothing outside of anything on the East Coast. So I was like, yeah, we'll go to Los Angeles, of course. And me, my mom, my brother flew out. I had family there, so we stayed with them and met with her, auditioned for her, and she ended up moving forward with me.
Wow.
And I was a senior in high school at this time, so I had to go back home and finish high school. And then the moment I graduated, she was sort of like, I can't do anything for where you are. Like, you have to be in Los Angeles. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can do that. And me and my mom packed up everything and drove my car out to California. My brother joined us a year later, and it just kind of fell in my lap. And then I just kept falling in love with it. Like, every time it would get frustrating, I would get this really incredible audition, and the same thing would happen where I felt like I was just releasing everything that I was feeling. And then I would be like, oh, wait, no, I really love doing this. This is like a passion of mine. And I just kind of been trying to do it since, kind of stuck with it. Yeah.
That's tricky. So many people are scared of it. So
yeah, understandably.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's really hard. It's
rejection is paramount.
And you get it all the time. I mean, even the role that I'm speaking about today, iMordecai, I did one other role besides that, which was Fast and the Furious, and that was 4 years into auditioning.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like nobody sees that part, really. You don't really talk about it because it's kind of a norm in the industry. Yeah, everybody gets a no and you audition, and that's just what you do. You audition and you hear no's until you hear a yes, and then you hear a yes, and great. Hopefully something big comes from that. But sometimes that's not how that works, and it doesn't feel like that in the moment. Like sometimes it feels like a lot, you're putting so much into it and not really feeling like you're getting anything back, if that makes sense. So I definitely get it. I've had my ups and downs. It's hard, but I think if you love it, if you love anything, you should keep trying.
What was it about Marvin's script and story that caught your eye, but also meeting him, I'm guessing, is a part of, the family's going to come, but he himself is so a part of the story as well.
Yeah. So I actually, when I auditioned for it, I wasn't sent the entire script. I just got the sides. And the sides ended up being a very pivotal moment for Nina in the film that really changes like the trajectory of her character, and I think the trauma that she's going through in the film. And I think even though I got a small bit of it, it was such a small part of Nina that I was seeing when I was auditioning. I could feel that she was this person who was dealing with a lot and really wanted to do good. Like she really wanted to be a good person and change the way things were that changed the world around her. And I think I always have a soft spot for people like that. I think it's just really beautiful when you can take something really heavy and sad and something that makes you feel like you're drowning and find like a breath of air from it. So I think that's what I fell in love with when I first met her. And then when I read the script, it was hard to not fall in love with the entire family. I think that's like such a beautiful part of this film is there's so many themes. It's about family and love and grief and loss and the dysfunction that takes place within family as well. And I think that's so relatable in its own way, but also it just felt like it really resonated with the world around me. And I also think that it was just a beautiful story about a family, and I really love reading about real human experiences. And so after I found out that I booked the role, right before I found out I booked the role, I did a FaceTime with Marvin. And if you meet him, he's just like really hard not to love, you know what I mean? Like he's just like this very eccentric, outgoing, incredible being who is so incredibly passionate about the things that he does. And I remember having a conversation with him, and it was very much just us just trying to get to know each other. And I did read with him on FaceTime, but we also were just having conversations, I think, just to see if we vibed with each other. And we ended up doing so. And I to this day am like incredibly close with him. We really came out of it with like a true friendship, which I think was really beautiful and something we felt from the very beginning. So
wow.
Yeah.
So cool. To kind of piggyback a little bit off that, knowing that the character is the only fictionalized character, it's not from a family member or himself, how much do you feel Marvin gave you ownership of this character? I feel like Nina couldn't have been anyone but you, the actress and the person. You share a lot of qualities with her. There's a lot of you, I think, in this. Would that be correct?
I like to think so.
Yeah.
I like I said, I really think she's a really incredible human at the end of it all. And yeah, I like to think that I relate to her in that way. I think that's something that Marvin saw, and I think that's sort of what made him feel comfortable with giving me this opportunity. And her being the only fictional character, there was definitely, because of what she went through, I think for Marvin, he was very specific about her. I think that there were things that he really saw as Nina and really wanted that for his film, but also for the relationship with Judd, who plays his dad. But at the same time, yes, he was very, very open and very collaborative, and he definitely gave me the freedom to have space with her, and that was something that I was very grateful for, because that's not always very common. I think that sometimes that could be, I feel like sometimes actors have to sort of fit themselves in a box with characters, because that's just how they're written and that's how they want them to be done. But with Marvin, yeah, there was a little bit of wiggle room with her, but there was also things that were very specific as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, he definitely gave me space.
So before we get into Judd, because obviously that's amazing, but talk to me about another interesting element, Miami. Mm-hmm. What was it like going out there, filming there, being in that world? I don't know if you could fake that. Yeah. Miami has that feel.
Yeah, it does. And it was my first time ever going, actually. Okay. So I was on set a lot. So there wasn't a lot of time to really like explore as much as I would have loved to. But we had like weekends off, and on the weekends I'd go to the beach, which was my favorite place in Miami because it's so gorgeous there. Like clear water. I loved it. It just felt very tropical to me, and also very like healing and calming in its own way. And the Cuban food is amazing. I think just the different cultures that you come in contact with being in Miami specifically was also really incredible to be around. And yeah, I really loved it. I think just being on set with Marvin, since this is where he lives and it's where the film takes place, it's where his family lives to this day, there were so many things. Like we would film in places that he has real life memories at. Like we would be filming in front of a building he lived in when he had just moved to Miami, or we'd go to the mall that him and his family would have like real life incidences that you'll see in the film that would take place. And so he would kind of walk around like, oh, that's where this happened and that's where this happened. And that was also really cool too, because I feel like sometimes when you travel to new places, you get the tourist experience, and I really love getting the experience of actually like being a part of it. And so being with Marvin every day and being able to do that while working was really incredible. I love Miami. It's awesome there.
So cool.
Yeah.
So obviously I want to know what the Judd experience is like, but also knowing the Mordecai and the real people are there. On top of all that, how crazy was watching that unravel? That must have been surreal.
I was literally going to say it was very surreal. So with Judd, I was really intimidated at first. I remember I met with Azia Hale, which is the producer of the film. I met with her in Los Angeles, and then once I was like on the flight to Miami, I landed. Like one of the first things I did was call her and be like, is everyone really nice? Like, what am I walking into right now? I'm like really scared. I'm new to this. These are award-winning actors that I'm sharing the screen with every single day. And at that, with like our characters the chemistry had to be there, you know? Yeah. So I'm like
we all terrified. Know it's embedded.
Yeah, and I'm like so terrified going into it, like, oh my God, I hope he likes me. Like, you know, like, I hope, like, I don't know. Like, I got into my head a little bit. But I met him the second day I had arrived in Miami for the first time. It was at a table read at a house that they had rented, like an Airbnb sort of thing. And I walk in and it's just like Carol, Sean, Judd. And I'm like, wow, I like grew up watching all of you. Like I felt out of body, honestly, like, but also very nervous, you know? And instantly it's just like, like, hi, oh my God, it's so nice to meet you. Like, arms open, very loving, very welcoming. I never once on set felt like I was less in any way. It was very much like, you are a part of this team and you are a part of this family now, and we're making a movie together, and that's incredible. Let's like share this experience with one another. And for me and Judd specifically, again, it was very important for us to have that time together and getting to know one another, and I think that helped me feel really comfortable on set being with him. And so he would like FaceTime me on the weekends. We'd go golfing together. We'd get food together. We'd just hang out with one another. And we ended up just like getting along right away really well. And I was so incredibly grateful for that, because again, it's just one of those things where like you hope that that's the case, but it might not always be. And yeah, it was an incredible experience. I learned a lot from him. I think also just all of them in general, I would, if I had a day off, I would just go to set and watch them, and just seeing them get into character and their process as actors and what that looked like for them was like just a very educational experience for me. I feel like I just absorbed it like a sponge. And yeah, it was very surreal. I think if you ever meet Marvin or Mordecai, you will really see how incredible Judd and Sean do, like right down to the mannerisms. It's exact. And there would be times on set where Judd and Marvin would get into, I like to call them like creative disputes. And so you had him in character kind of treating him like how Mordecai would, and then you have Mordecai in the background like, oh, there goes Marvin screwing everything up, like yelling at Marvin, and Marvin's running around trying to like figure out everyone and calm everyone down and kind of like get the fires out. So that was just always like, not for Marvin, I guess, but a little bit for me, just entertaining to watch, and also just incredible to see like there's this guy, an actor who's acting as this guy, and this guy's truly acting like this guy, and they're one person really. So yeah, surreal.
One of the great scenes, I don't want to give too many scenes away because I really...
Yeah, I'm trying not to as well.
There's a great montage between you and Judd that we get to see a lot of that y'all know each other, that y'all are connected. What's it like filming that? Because obviously that's a much more in-depth day of shooting. Yeah. What was that experience like? Because it looked like y'all were having fun.
I was going to say that was really just us hanging out with a camera in front of us.
See, that's awesome.
Yeah, like Yeah, it was really just us having a fun time, and we got to do fun things, like go to, I can't say, sorry. We got to do fun things, and we experienced it just as friends, I feel like, with just the idea, because we didn't really have lines during those montages. It was really just us like showing the friendship, I think, on like a more silent level. And so yeah, that's really like, it was very genuine, I felt.
That's so cool. Mm-hmm. It was a refreshing, wonderful moment in the film. I've got to ask, going from Young Letty to this, that's a huge step. Mm-hmm. What's going on? What's this like? Yeah. This isn't your everyday second project.
It was a very different experience. Literally, I filmed it a week apart. So, and being on Fast and the Furious was my first time on a set ever. And that's like a huge production, ginormous production. And then I was kind of jumping into this world, which was smaller and more intimate, but also a lot more, I was a lot more emotionally and physically involved in it. So I felt like with iMordecai, I had time to really sit with my character and learn her from like a fresh slate, whereas Young Lady was a little different, right? Because there's a blueprint, and I'm trying my best to do the best that I can to recreate that blueprint. And with Nina, it was different because I got to sort of create her myself. Yeah. And so I think, it was just like two very different projects. But I think with iMordecai, it was just a lot more time that I got to spend in it. And so it definitely affected me, I think, emotionally on a different level.
you were wonderful enough to come out here. What was it? You guys had screenings though in Florida over the last month. Were you able to attend any of those screenings or see anything with an audience for iMordecai yet?
Several, actually. So me and Marvin are sort of doing this iMordecai on tour right now because iMordecai just opened up into theaters in South Florida, Phoenix, Los Angeles, New York. So we've just been hopping around. We started in Miami, went to New York, then Phoenix, and I'm going here now in Mississippi for the Oxford Film Festival, obviously, and then I'm headed back to Florida tomorrow to wrap up everything for a month. We've just been going to screenings and doing Q&As with the audience, so in real time have been able to see the reactions and the comments and the thoughts and the laughs and the tears, and just have like real intimate conversations with them about what it was like on set, you know, Marvin's story and how much of his soul is like really in the project and how much is truly based on a true story and not, you know what I mean? Like just having real conversations to answer any questions that any of them had. And that's been like such an amazing experience because I don't know if I'll ever get an experience to do something like that again. That's not usually how press is. This is like very different. And it's very Marvin. And yeah, it's been incredible. We've heard nothing but really positive responses, and I know I'm really grateful for that, but I know for Marvin it's like life-changing for him. This has been something he's been doing for 8 years of his life, and I think to finally be able to really see how everyone feels about this art that he created is very moving for him. So yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you mind if I ask, you may not be able to talk about certain things, but do you know what's down the line, what's next for you, what steps you will be going on?
Yeah, so right now it's like we're entering pilot season a little bit. It's a lot of auditioning, and I'm doing this tour right now. I'm doing some press for iMordecai specifically, and you know, just hoping, like I said earlier, it's a really hard business. It's a really hard business to be in, and I'm really hoping that people see this film and they love it, and it opens up opportunities, and yeah, we'll see where we go. I'm kind of along for the ride right now.
So I know you said you love the beach, but I'm curious, going to Miami, is there anything you purchased, found, or able to take home as a keepsake that you were able to bring into your own world? Or something that was given to you? Anything that just, that's your piece of Miami, maybe? Thought I'd throw you on the spot.
Well, I'm trying to think. I feel like, I mean, I've gotten like clothing there, but I don't know if that I don't think that really counts.
Everyone goes shopping.
Yeah, right. But you know what? I'm going back tomorrow, and that's going to be my goal. I'm going to find, because I have Saturday and Sunday there, so I'm going to find something. Do you have recommendations of what would be? Maybe I'll find like a seashell on the beach.
I was about to say, since the beach is your place, a seashell would be perfect.
Something from there would be pretty cool, right? Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
Yeah. Of your traveling with the film, what has been your favorite non-film experience? A restaurant, an evening spent getting to meet someone from an audience, anything that just stood out to you?
Yeah.
Because it's a unique experience, that's why I'm curious.
It has to be the audience for me. The audience, but also I think we have a whole team doing this together. We have about 6 people all traveling around right now, and I think the memories and the friendships that have gotten so much stronger and that have grown from spending a month feels so short when you say it, but sometimes when you're in it, it just feels like, especially with the team that I have been with, it feels like we've known each other for a lifetime. And I think just like the fun, like the random funny moments we have on the plane rides or on the car rides to where we're going, or the times that we can stop and get food in between. And I think for me, that's a huge one, is the memories and the friendships that I'm building with my team, but also meeting the audience members. I mean, there's been so many incidences where we've had people who were just so incredibly moved by the film, and they related to it on such a deep level that they're like crying while telling us about, their own life experience and their relationship with their family. And I think that to me is that's the most beautiful, because I just love being a part of anything that allows people to think on a really deep level. And I think for somebody to be able to sit there and just be moved so much to the point where it's healing for them is so incredible. To be a part of something that's doing that for someone else is all I want to do in this career. I love that so much. So I would say that. I think that, yeah.
Well, you're only 2 films in, but you're starting really well.
Thank you.
And I hope you continue to do that. So
thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you, and thank you for having me.